Greetings. Let's talk. So, I wanted to sit down in this video and go over the next step that I use in medallion making. And this is actually transferring the markings and all the layout that we did in the first part to the physical puck. And we're going to see the process here. So as you can see, I'm sitting here, I'm at my bench again, and I've just got done grinding this puck down to the correct size. And as you can see, I'm pulling out my camera a lot and getting photographs. And I could just as easily document, I could just easily edit all these out, all these clips of me taking pictures with my phone, but I feel like, I want to show you the whole process, which includes, me pulling out my phone and taking pictures for, documenting later. Now, this right here, this is a center finder. And what that is, that's a 90-degree angle with a straight edge that perfectly bisects it. And you put that in a circle, and you turn the circle around a few times, and you strike a couple of lines in the middle, and as long as the circle is a perfect circle or as close to perfect as you can get it very, very centered. It's a common woodworker's tool, and it's based on some geometric principles that I also teach with my wing dividers. And yes, I take a lot of photos. And I want you, while you're watching this, I want you to keep that in mind. Every time you look at a piece of documentation or an ANS display in the SC and you see a lot of really good photographs, just remember that's someone who is remembering to pull out their phone and snap pictures. And yes, it does disrupt your workflow. Yes, it absolutely slows you down. But if you're going to do this, on a competitive basis, if you're going to document for an ANS competition, that's part of the process. You have to remember that. So yes, you're seeing this. You're seeing the back of my hand, and I apologize for that. And this part right here, you'll note my pencil's pulled all the way back. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually scoring the surface with the tip of my wing dividers. I've got the center point of the wing dividers on the center mark that I got with my center finder, and here I am scoring. Now, historically, scoring is absolutely something that would have been done. If this were slate or clay, it would leave a very nice, almost imperceptible scratch mark. And that's kind of what I was going for here. And as soon as I laid it down, you could probably see the circle. The scoring was too deep. I was like, okay, this was a mistake. So I had two options. One was to throw it away and make a new, and grind down a new puck. And the other one was to go ahead and transition over to pencil marks. As you can see here, I'm transitioning. And the reason I'm not using the other pencil, that is a standard number 2 pencil with number 2 lead, which I have found empirically is too hard to make good marks on Sculpey. The one I have in there right now, the black one, is a 8B, B as in Bravo, 8B lead pencil for drawing and sketching, and it's a softer lead. And as you can see here, it leaves a beautiful, clean, clear line that the video is picking up perfectly. Now you'll notice there's not a lot of hesitation or measurement here for me. I'm not like trying a dozen different measurements. I am this particular measurement here that I'm doing is off of my edge gauge. So rather than go off the picture, I can just put my edge gauge on there and verify what line I need to draw. But most of my measurements, I'm taking that wing divider and I'm taking my measurements right off the center point of my what's the word for it, of my drawing. So all that time that I put into the original layout drawing, that is saving me from a lot of that time, a lot of guesswork, and a lot of mistakes here. And there I'm checking my work, and I'm realizing the medallion isn't perfectly centered. It's a little oblong, and that's produced a bit of a lip, a larger lip on one side. And there's just a point in time where you have to make the artistic decision that, okay, I can live with that lip, and no, I don't need to go and grind it down more, or I don't need to redo it. And this is where I am. Again, I'm transferring marks. These don't need to be thousandth of an inch precise. So what I do is I just lay it down over my drawing, and I line up my eyes so that they're looking right down on it straight. And I just tick off the marks for each letter. If I were making some sort of interlocking pieces, something that required machinist level precision, I would be using my wing dividers and doing ultra precise marks. But in this case, I've been so precise and so consistent up until now. There's almost no slop to my measurements. There's an imperceivable amount of error in the divides. So I can trust my eyes to transfer this last set of measurements onto the puck itself. Now, something to keep in mind as you're watching me do this, because what I'm ultimately going to do is cast this, I'm going to use this model to make an impression in sand. None of these pencil marks are going to show up. Anything that leaves a visual mark without a physical mark is going to be invisible. It's not going to transfer in a casting process. So all of these marks, any smudges, anything like that, totally irrelevant to the final design. These are strictly guides and proportions and layout marks that I will use when it comes time to actually start modeling with wax. Now, this is where I get a little ahead of myself. I'll explain in a second, but you see me looking at the model, and you see me also taking another picture. And here's the picture for you, so you can see what it is I'm looking at. My mistake is I didn't flip the model over. I lost track of which side I was working on, and I wound up starting off with the wrong marks on the wrong side, which you can get away with pencil because you can erase it. But it was frustrating for me, and you're going to see me make that mistake in just a minute. It's also dusty in there, and you see me, I'm just blowing some of the dust off the face so I have a clean surface to work with. Now, as fancy as those optics look, those are really bottom rate. I think they're $25 jeweler's glasses that I got on Amazon. Historically, there were magnification optics that people wore tied to their faces. Jewelers and artisans have been doing it for centuries. I don't have any good guidelines as to what they look like, so I'm using the modern equivalent, and I'm using a cheap version of it. I don't have the time, money, or energy for something really nice and expensive, and it's not even really needed here. You see, I've pulled out another set of wing dividers. These are the ones that are screw set, so they're much more consistent, much more precise. And I'm using that to measure the width of my letters. And as I put that letter down, I realize wrong letter on the wrong face. So here's the mistake. I put the wrong letter on the wrong face, and I have an eraser now. And some of you are probably going, erasers aren't period. And actually, if you look in woodworking, there are a lot of burnishing and sanding tools which were very specifically called out by early Renaissance woodworkers for being able to erase marks on wood. And one of them is a bundle of dried, crushed reeds that are bound tightly almost down to the end. And that simply forms a abrasive end that you would hold in your fist and grind into the wood. And it was used as a burnishing tool, but it was also noted for being able to remove chalk or pencil marks. And even sometimes it would smooth over scratch marks if you were using scratches to mark off your cuts or mark lines on surfaces. So did they have a rubber eraser? No, but the idea that there was a tool they could use to erase a mark on a smooth surface is not alien to the late medieval, early Renaissance artist, and I'm exploiting that fact. The pencil leaves good clean marks, and they are easily removed. And something else I know I could do, I could get a curved scalpel blade. I've got a whole set of X-Acto knives, and I could just use that edge. I wouldn't have to cut it, just use it perpendicular to the surface. I could scrape, and I just need to take like a hundredth of a millimeter off, and I could remove the marks as well. So there are ways of removing marks from a hard surface like that. I just happen to select an eraser. Now you'll notice I am turning that as I write so that the letters are lined up with the direction of my hand. And that is how I keep my letters straight, not in line with each other because I'm doing circumferential writing. They all line up as if they are radiating out from the center of the medallion. And there I am counting my letters, making sure I don't miss anything, making sure I've got all the letters where they need to be. And if you're wondering where I'm starting with this, I always choose the letter that runs right over the middle of the medallion at the top. And you've seen in the pictures as I did the layout. I start with that letter and I make sure it is straight. I make sure it is the right height. I make sure it is the right width. And then I move left and right. Sometimes I'll do all the left, all the right. Sometimes I'll go left, right, left, right. It depends on how many letters there are. It also depends on really kind of how rushed I am. I really like to take my time and just kind of sculpt each letter individually. And if I'm doing that, I can go all the ones on the right and then come back to all the ones on the left. If I'm feeling a little more pressed for time, I'll kind of check my work a little faster by going left, right, left, right, left, right. But I think that's more personal preference than any demonstrable benefit or any empirical benefit. Normally, I don't like this type of just intense detail work where I'm hunched over the desk constantly doing the smallest thing. This, on any other environment, this would bug the living daylights out of me. But not here. For whatever reason, when I do this, I don't feel rushed. I don't feel stressed. I feel relaxed. I feel, when I get these letters laid out, I feel accomplished. And if you knew what my penmanship scores were in elementary school, you would laugh at the lettering I do here. And again, I laid down, I was doing the A and R in the letter art, or the word arts, out of arts and sciences. And I laid them down, and they weren't lined up right. I had misjudged the medallion, I'd misjudged the orientation. Like, nope, we're doing this again. Which again is one of the benefits of using a soft lead pencil on a ceramic type surface. Just a little bit of eraser and it's gone. Realistically, I could probably use a bit of sandpaper. I'm willing to bet that would get rid of those pencil marks too. Now what I'm checking here is, in this case, the height of the letters. The middle letters, I didn't put guidelines down. I kind of freehanded it, but I knew I would be able to check my work. And when you break this type of penmanship down, this type of lettering, the major mark of consistency is height and width. Really, you can cut a lot of slack for in a judging environment for letter shape or even some letter height consistency. But if they're not all the same height and same width, that really distracts from what the letters are trying to add up and say. It makes the word less legible. And part of what makes the medallion awesome is that the letters are legible and they convey some sort of a message or statement. When you break down words into their component letters and you think about each letter as its own separate shape, and then you have to lay each shape down, it, for me at least, is a much more presentable, accomplishable feat. If you were to ask me, you need to sculpt, you need to lay out, these 3 words and an ampersand across this medallion's diameter and so forth, it's daunting. But when I don't break it down as one project, I go, okay, I need to sculpt these letters separated out this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I could do that. And then, all right, arts is 2 letters on this side, 2 letters on this side. It can only be this tall. Then I do the ampersand, and then I do sciences. SCINCES. So that's 5. So that's 7. SCIENCES. 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8 letters. That's 4 on each side. You just got to space it out. And when I break it down that way, it makes a lot more sense. It's a lot easier. It's a bunch of very accomplishable tasks. Again, more photographs, more documentation. Now, I'm sure right around now you're wondering, well, what about that blank spot on the face? What's going in there? And you'll see, that's something a little different I'm going to do, and we'll talk about that next time. So these, as you can see, this is what we accomplished in this. It's a part of the reason why this segment went by so quickly, part of the reason why this isn't a full half-hour, 40-minute segment is I did all the measurements up front. I did all the layout. I've made all of my mistakes. I did all my calculations beforehand, which makes these markups so simple because I'm just transferring what's already there. I'm transferring my ideas and my measurements from the paper to the puck. And the other thing that makes this go very smoothly is that the puck is smooth, is a simple geometric shape. I'm not dealing with contours. I'm not dealing with rolling surfaces. And I'm only speculating here, but I really feel like that is something that drew Pisano to the work he did. Pisano was an accomplished painter. He was an accomplished artist in general, but he was an accomplished painter, known a lot for his paintings, And a painting is a flat surface. It lets you convey depth and color and meaning on a flat surface. And I think the similarities between that and the medallion, which is a flat surface with kind of a hint of 3D, even though it's not a full three-dimensional rendering of his image, I can see why that would attract his attention and why he would like that as a medium. So enough of me, or I'm going to make this video way too long, much longer than my actual shop video. Thank you very much for joining me, and we'll see you next time.